Juno stood in the dimly lit chamber, dust particles floating in the air, the faint hum of her equipment, the only sound breaking the eerie silence. The artifact she had uncovered was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was a small, metallic disc, embedded with intricate foreign symbols. It hummed softly in her hands, as if it were alive, pulsing with a strange energy that seemed to call to her. The closer she examined it, the more she felt a profound connection, a sensation she couldn't explain, as if the disc was more than just an object. It was a message, a key to something monumental. Her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted her magnification tools, zooming in on the symbols etched across the surface. Each one was unfamiliar, yet somehow they seemed to be on the edge of her comprehension, as though they were meant to be unlocked by someone with the right knowledge, a knowledge she feared she might not possess. "This shouldn't be here," she whispered to herself, her voice breaking the stillness. The artifact was found beneath layers of dirt and ruin, hidden away for thousands of years. It had been buried deep in a forgotten temple, lost to history. Her mind raced with possibilities: who had placed it there, and why? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden beeping from her datapad. The readout on the screen shifted, showing a series of strange, repeating patterns. At first, Juno thought it was a glitch, but as she stared at it, she recognized the same sequence within the patterns on the artifact. Her pulse quickened. This is it," she murmured, a thrill of excitement running through her veins. The symbols were a form of code, one that had been hidden for eons, waiting to be deciphered. Her heart pounded in her chest as she began running a scan, pulling up ancient data files that might correlate to the symbols. Her fingers flew across the pad, desperately trying to make sense of the fragments of information. As the scan processed, a new signal appeared on her screen, one that was unmistakably extraterrestrial in origin. It was an encrypted message, but the language was one Juno recognized from the cryptic texts she'd studied, an ancient dialect once believed to be lost to time. As the message began to unravel, her mind grasped the chilling truth behind it. "The architects are coming." Juno gasped, her breath catching in her throat. The realization struck her like a lightning bolt. The architects, the mysterious race that had shaped humanity's earliest civilizations, were not just a myth. They were real, and they were returning. Her hands shook as she activated the communication relay, sending an emergency signal to her colleagues at the University of Pallas. "Dr. Vance, Kane, you need to see this." "It's happening," she spoke urgently, her voice low with a mixture of awe and fear. The legends had always suggested that the architects would return one day, but no one had truly believed it. Not until now. The silence in the chamber deepened as Juno looked once more at the artifact, her thoughts swirling. The impending arrival of the architects could change everything. There were only whispers about what they had once done, about the power they had wielded. If humanity had been their creation, what would their return mean? And more importantly, what would they want now? This continuation adds to the mystery and suspense, setting the stage for the revelation to come while keeping the tension building. Let me know if you'd like to adjust any details or add further elements. The transmission crackled as Dr. Laia Vance's voice came through the calm, urgent but steady. "Juno, we've received your signal. We're on our way, but we need answers. What exactly did you find?" Juno felt a surge of anxiety, her thoughts still racing from what she had uncovered. "It's not just an artifact, Leah. It's a beacon, a signal, and it's tied to the return of the architects. They're coming back." There was a long pause, a silence that spoke volumes. When Laia finally responded, her voice was laced with disbelief, but there was no trace of doubt. "The architects? Juno, that's real," Juno finished, cutting her off. "I'm telling you, I've decoded it. The message, it's from them. They're not some ancient myth. They're real, and their return isn't a good thing." Before Leah could respond, a new alert flashed across Juno's console, an incoming message from an unknown source. It was a single line of text, encrypted and unreadable to the naked eye, but unmistakably similar to the patterns from the artifact. Juno's breath caught in her throat. "Leah, I've got another one. It's more encrypted, but it's definitely linked. They're already starting to act. We're too late. They've already arrived." "Where?" Leah asked sharply. "I don't know yet. I'll send the coordinates to you. But the anomalies, they're happening everywhere. It's like something is pulling the strings." Just then, Marcus Kane, a senior officer in the Planetary Defense Forces, contacted her directly. His voice was tight, tinged with an urgency that echoed across the galaxy. "Juno, you need to see this. There are signs of disruptions, systems failing, ships going dark. We're losing control of the outer colonies. Something is manipulating the very fabric of space. We can't pinpoint it, but I'm afraid it's the architects." Juno stood frozen in the dim light of the chamber, staring at the data scrolling rapidly across her screen. She felt the weight of the truth crashing down upon her. It was happening. The architects were making their move, and the disturbances were growing more frequent. Ships and stations across the galaxy were inexplicably disappearing. Entire systems were losing power, and time itself seemed to fold in on itself in some regions. Leia's voice returned, breaking through the rising tension. "We've got a fleet heading toward the last known coordinates. But Juno, there's something else. The signals we're detecting, they're not just random. They're coordinated. Someone knows we're searching." Before Juno could respond, the room darkened, and a sudden cold gust of wind whipped through the chamber, sending a chill down her spine. She looked up, and for a moment, thought she saw something, shadowy figures, flickering at the edge of her vision. "Juno?" Kane's voice called out, his concern cutting through the silence. "What's going on there?" Her heart raced as the shadows in the room seemed to deepen, the air thick with an oppressive energy. It wasn't just the artifact calling to her now. It was something much larger, something watching, waiting. The moment stretched on, heavy with uncertainty. Juno instinctively reached out to touch the artifact, feeling its strange warmth under her fingers. The symbols etched across its surface began to glow faintly, as if in response to her touch. Then, a new message appeared on her screen, a final, undeniable warning. "They are already here." The ground trembled beneath her feet. A sharp sound, like distant thunder, rumbled from deep within the planet. It wasn't just the return of the architects. Something else had awoken, something that had been waiting for centuries to rise again. Juno swallowed hard. The next chapter of humanity's history was beginning, but she feared it would not be one of salvation. This continuation builds the tension as Juno realizes that the architect's return is not just imminent, but already underway. It sets the stage for conflict, with a deeper mystery unfolding that will pull Juno and her team into a race against time to understand the full scope of the danger ahead. Let me know if you'd like to adjust any details or expand further. The sky above the human colonies darkened, and for the first time in history, the stars seemed to flicker and vanish, as if swallowed by a vast, incomprehensible force. On the edge of the galaxy, the first of the architect's ships appeared, a colossal vessel, its form shifting in and out of visibility, like some kind of living entity. It was not like any human-made ship. It was alive, pulsating with a dark energy that bent the very space around it. Juno sat in the control room of the research vessel, staring at the view screen as the dread fleet of the architects descended upon the outer colonies. Her hands gripped the armrests of her seat so tightly that her knuckles went white. Her heart raced with a mixture of fear and fascination. This was the moment she had dreaded, and yet, a part of her couldn't help but be awestruck by the power and majesty of the ships. There was no mistaking the truth any longer. The architects were not just a race of superior beings, they were gods, and they had returned to reclaim their creation. "I never thought I'd see this day," Marcus Kane said, his voice strained with disbelief. He stood at the back of the room, watching the chaos unfold on the tactical displays. They're enormous. We're not prepared for this. Leah Vance, who had been quietly analyzing the data, turned to face them both. This is beyond anything we've encountered. The technology they wield is. She paused, struggling to find words that could encapsulate the gravity of the situation. It's not just advanced, it's beyond our understanding. We can't even communicate with them. They're not responding to any of our signals. Juno shook her head, a deep sense of urgency gnawing at her. They're not trying to communicate. They're not here for peace. Her eyes flickered to the screen, where one of the architect's ships, nearly the size of a small moon, loomed ominously above the Earth's atmosphere. A crackling energy field surrounded it, making the air shimmer with an eerie light. The message was clear. The architects had not returned to guide humanity. They had come to reclaim it. Suddenly, a booming voice filled the room, originating from a strange signal that none of their equipment could trace. It wasn't an audio transmission. It was more like a pulse, a wave of sound that resonated directly within their minds. "We are the architects," the voice echoed, its tone cold and distant, yet rich with a sense of timeless authority. "You, humanity, have outlived your purpose. You are our creation, and you have failed. Your existence is an aberration. We are here to correct the mistake." The words hit Juno like a physical blow, her stomach tightening. She had always suspected that the return of the architects would not be a benevolent one. But hearing it in their own words was another thing entirely. They had created humanity, engineered them to be the perfect species, intelligent, adaptable, capable of greatness. But somewhere along the line, humanity had exceeded the architect's vision, becoming something they never intended. "They're not just here to conquer," Juno murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "They're here to erase us, to undo what they created." Marcus's voice broke through her thoughts. "Can we fight them? Do we even stand a chance?" Juno turned to him, her eyes filled with a grim resolve. "We have to try." The tension in the room thickened, and for the first time since the signal was discovered, the urgency of their situation hit home. The architects were not invaders. They were ancient gods, beings whose power was so far beyond human comprehension that resistance seemed futile. But Juno had seen humanity rise to challenges before, and she refused to believe that this time would be different. "We might not be able to fight them directly," Leah said quietly, "but we know one thing. The architects wouldn't have left us without a means to resist. They may have created us, but they underestimated us." The weight of Leia's words settled heavily on Juno. The resistance, though small and scattered, had already begun. But now, with the arrival of the architects, it would have to be more than just a few scattered uprisings. It would need to be a united front, a war fought not just with weapons, but with the will to survive. Juno's mind raced. She had the artifact, the symbols it contained, the message she had uncovered. There was more to it than simply an announcement of the architect's return. There was a clue, something hidden in plain sight, something that could turn the tide. But time was running out. As the architect's ships continued to loom over the colonies, Juno knew that the fight for humanity's future had only just begun. This continuation ramps up the stakes, pushing the tension higher as the architects reveal their true intentions and humanity begins to realize the gravity of their situation. The challenge is clear. Humanity must find a way to resist, even against overwhelming odds. Let me know if you'd like any further adjustments. Within hours of the architect's arrival, entire fleets of human warships were wiped out in a single devastating pulse. What the architects had shown in their initial demonstration was only the beginning. The pulse didn't just destroy ships, it shredded the fabric of space, collapsing entire systems into chaos. Time itself seemed to warp, twisting in on itself as the human fleets struggled to mount any kind of defense. In the blink of an eye, planets that had been thriving colonies now lay in ruins. The world watched in terror as the architects made their presence known in every corner of human space. Every attempt at communication was ignored, every plea for mercy rejected. The message was unmistakable. Humanity's time had come to an end. Juno sat in a dimly lit war room aboard the Vanguard, the last of the human resistance's flagship vessels. Across from her, Marcus Kane, now the leader of the human fleet, stood, his face grim and determined. He had seen the power of the architects firsthand, but now, with Earth under threat, he had no choice but to act. "They've wiped out our entire fleet," Marcus said, his voice low, a quiet fury simmering beneath. "The colonies are falling one by one. We can't win a conventional war. We need to rethink this strategy, Juno. We need something unexpected." Juno leaned forward, studying the star map projected before them. She could feel the weight of Marcus's words pressing down on her. Resistance seemed futile, but there had to be another way. There had to be something humanity could do to fight back. Leah Vance, who had been quiet until now, spoke up from the console at the back of the room. "The Ascension device, it's not just a weapon, it's more than that. We've been trying to understand it, but we've only scratched the surface. There's potential there, something hidden." Juno's heart skipped a beat. She had known the device was their last hope, but now she was beginning to understand just how much they might be underestimating it. What if we're not just supposed to use it to fight them? What if it's a way to become more? What if it can elevate us, give us power like theirs? Leah nodded slowly, her fingers tapping rapidly on the console as she pulled up the encrypted schematics of the device. "It's not just a weapon, Juno. It's a transformation. It could unlock human potential on a scale we've never imagined. But it's risky. It could make us stronger than the architects, or it could turn us into something else, something we can't control." Marcus crossed his arms, eyeing the schematics warily. "What's the catch? There's always a catch." Juno met his gaze, her eyes steely with resolve. "We don't have a choice. The architects want to erase humanity. We either fight back with everything we have, or we die. The Ascension device might be our only chance." The room fell silent as the weight of their decision settled in. The Ascension device could be their salvation or their doom. But as Juno watched the destruction unfolding outside the viewport, she knew they couldn't afford to wait any longer. "Set a course for Earth," she said, her voice steady despite the growing fear inside her. "We're going to take the fight to them. Whatever it costs, we have to push forward." Outside, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter, as if they, too, were waiting for humanity's next move. A new kind of war was beginning, one that would test the very limits of what it meant to be human. As the Vanguard surged toward Earth, Juno couldn't shake the feeling that the return of the architects had set humanity on a path from which there would be no turning back. There would be no peace with these gods, no negotiation. The architects had come to correct their creation. Now, humanity had to decide whether to survive as it was, or to become something more. This continuation shifts the story into the heart of the uprising, with humanity beginning to organize and strategize a response. The Ascension device emerges as a potential game-changer, adding a sense of urgency and danger to the narrative. Let me know if you'd like to explore any further details or directions. The war had escalated to a scale humanity had never known. Across Earth and its colonies, the architects' grip tightened with each passing day. Their ships hovered in the skies, towering monoliths of power, and from them emanated waves of energy that disrupted every human effort to resist. Cities fell, communications were severed, and entire fleets vanished into the abyss of space without a trace. On Earth, Juno, Marcus, and Leia stood in the heart of humanity's last stronghold, the ruins of the old capital, now a bastion for the resistance. The Ascension device lay on a table before them, its sleek surface gleaming in the dim light of their underground war room. It was a symbol of hope, but also of dread. They all knew what it could do, but no one had been able to decipher its full potential. Now it was their only option. Juno ran her fingers over the device's surface, the same strange symbols she had discovered years ago glowing faintly beneath her touch. It felt almost alive, pulsing with a power that made the air hum around it. Her mind raced with the possibilities. She had learned enough to understand that the Ascension device wasn't just a weapon, it was a tool for transformation. But the transformation it offered came at a high cost. It could elevate humanity, unlocking the hidden potential of the human race, granting them powers beyond anything the architects could have ever imagined. But there was a risk. "There's no going back after this," Marcus said, his voice a gravelly whisper. "If we use the device, we could become something else entirely. We might gain the strength to defeat them, but at what cost? What if we lose ourselves in the process?" Leah was silent, her eyes fixed on the device. "The choice is bigger than just fighting the architects. It's about what humanity becomes after. If we use it, we may surpass the architects in power. We could build a new future, but we could also become the very gods they were. We could become the next Terrans." Juno looked at the two of them, weighing their words. She understood the fear, the hesitation. There was no guarantee that humanity would emerge from this trial intact. If they ascended, there was no telling what they would become, beings of pure power, ruling the galaxy as the architects had once ruled them, or something worse. But inaction wasn't an option, not now. "We can't let them erase us," Juno said, her voice firm. "If we wait, we die. If we use the Ascension device, we risk becoming something else, but we also risk becoming the architects of our own destiny. We have to take the chance. We don't have the luxury of fear anymore." Marcus nodded slowly, though his expression remained conflicted. "So it's decided then. We use it. We risk everything." Leah looked up, her face pale but resolute. "We can't use it blindly. We need to understand what it's going to do to us, to our minds, to our souls. We need to be prepared." Juno turned to the display, where the final coordinates to the Ascension site flashed on the screen. The device was hidden deep within the mountains, in a place that had been a sanctuary to the architects for millennia. A final confrontation was inevitable. "There's no more time for preparation," Juno said, her voice filled with determination. "We have to act now. The architects are coming for Earth. If we don't rise up, they will destroy everything." Outside, the sky was darkened by the approaching clouds of the architects' fleet. A shadow stretched across the land, like a cloak of inevitability. Humanity had reached the edge of extinction, but it was here, at this precipice, that they would make their stand. The Ascension device would either save them or damn them, but it was humanity's only choice. "We move out at dawn," Juno said, standing tall. "Whatever happens, we make our stand. It's time to become something more." This continuation emphasizes the gravity of the decision Juno and her team face: to use the Ascension device and risk transforming humanity into something they might not be able to control, or to face certain destruction at the hands of the architects. The tension of the choice builds the anticipation for the final confrontation. Let me know if you'd like to adjust any further elements. The sky above Earth was an unnatural shade of red as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon. A vast fleet of the architects' ships hovered ominously in orbit, their presence casting a shadow over the planet. The world was holding its breath. Humanity's last stand had arrived. Juno stood on the command deck of the Vanguard, the Ascension device secured in a containment module behind her. Her fingers twitched with anticipation. They had arrived at the Ascension site, a forgotten temple buried deep within the mountains, the very heart of ancient humanity's origins. It was here that the architects had shaped their creation, here that they would make their final stand. Marcus Kane stood beside her, his expression steely. "We've made it this far. The architects are already in the atmosphere. Once we activate the device, there's no turning back. Are you ready for this?" Juno nodded, her gaze fixed on the red-tinged sky outside. "We have no other choice. If we don't do this, humanity will be wiped out. We either fight back with everything we have, or we die. Leah Vance, her face pale but resolute, adjusted the device's interface and checked the power readings. The Ascension device is fully functional. It's a one-way transformation. We don't know what it will do to us, but it's our only hope of surviving what's coming. They had spent days preparing, scanning every inch of the ancient structure, trying to understand the true power they were about to unlock. But now, as the architects descended, the unknowns no longer mattered. They had crossed the point of no return. "Then let's make it count," Marcus said. And with that, he turned to the bridge crew. "All ships, prepare for immediate deployment. We'll hold off the architects as long as we can. Juno, Leah, you're with me. We'll take the device to the core chamber." The ground rumbled beneath their feet as the vanguard descended into the heart of the ancient temple. The walls, covered in centuries of dust, began to glow as the device hummed to life, responding to the presence of the last remnant of the architect's power. The path before them grew clearer, and the great chamber opened wide, revealing a vast altar built into the mountain's core. As they approached the center of the chamber, the air grew thick with energy. The Ascension device pulsed with a blinding light, as if it were calling to the very stars above. It was here, at this nexus of creation, that the device would unlock the latent potential of humanity, a potential that would either save them from the architects or doom them to become something unrecognizable. "We're doing this now," Juno said, her voice firm. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the device's interface. The moment her skin made contact, the device hummed louder, a vibration that shook the very air around them. Energy surged from the device and began to course through her body, then to Marcus and Leah. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Outside, the architect's ships loomed closer, their presence a constant, oppressive weight. They were waiting, watching as humanity prepared to ascend. And as the Ascension device reached its final activation, Juno felt a surge of power unlike anything she had ever imagined. It was a flood of knowledge, of strength, of clarity. She could feel the thoughts of her comrades, the collective pulse of every human mind rising together. They were no longer just individuals. They were something greater, something beyond. They were becoming gods. The power of the Ascension device flooded the chamber, and with it came a vision. The architects themselves, standing in their colossal ships, frozen, as if sensing what was happening. A ripple of energy spread outward from Earth, and for the first time, humanity stood equal to the creators who had once shaped them. Juno's heart raced as she realized the truth. Humanity had not just ascended to a new form, they had become the true heirs to the stars. The architects, for all their power, had underestimated the resilience, the will to survive, of their own creation. The ground beneath them shifted, and in that moment, Juno knew they were no longer the same. A new dawn had arrived, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Humanity's future was no longer defined by the architect's design. They would forge their own path, a path built on the power of their minds, their will, and their boundless potential. And the architects would soon learn that it was humanity, not them, who would shape the stars from now on. This conclusion sees humanity rise to a new, godlike level of power, taking the fight to the architects with newfound strength and purpose. The Ascension offers them the potential to not only survive, but to reshape the galaxy on their own terms. Let me know if you'd like to adjust any aspects or add further details.